Welcome to Loud History. Today we dive into a heartbreaking tale that gripped New Zealand in 2023, the Abbey Caves tragedy. Are you curious about the mysteries hidden underground? Imagine an ordinary school trip suddenly turning into the worst nightmare. Today we will explore the story of Karnin Petera and the fateful moments at Abbey Caves. Did you know that nature can be beautiful yet cruel? Join me as we step into this story where life and death are separated by mere minutes. On May 9, 2023, a group of students from Whangarei Boys High School planned to explore Abbey Caves. Abbey Caves are located in Northland, New Zealand, not far from the city of Whangarei. The area is famous for its three main caves: Organ Cave, Middle Cave, and Ivy Cave. These caves are natural wonders with sparkling limestone formations and mysterious underground passages. But their beauty comes with deadly danger. Did you know that caves like Abbey Caves can flood within minutes during heavy rain? That's what makes this story so haunting. That week, the weather in Northland was very unstable. A storm warning had been issued predicting heavy rain by the end of May 9th. Despite this, on May 8th, a group of Year 11 students had completed their exploration of Organ Cave without any issues. This gave the school confidence that the next trip would also be safe. But not everyone thought so. Some parents began to worry about the weather. One parent emailed the school asking if the May 9th trip would still go ahead. After receiving confirmation that it would, they decided to keep their son at home. Alicia Toki, Karnin Petera's mother, also emailed the school. She asked if the caves were truly safe given the weather conditions. The school replied that they were closely monitoring the weather. They predicted heavy rain around 3 p.m., but the students would be out of the caves by 1:30 p.m. On the morning of May 9th, the school checked the weather again. The radar showed a storm over Kaitaia, quite far from Whangarei. There were no new warnings for Whangarei, so they decided to proceed with the trip. However, to be cautious, they would only explore Organ Cave, considered the safest of the three. Around 9 a.m., 17 students, a teacher, and a responsible adult arrived at Abbey Caves. Light rain was falling, but they suited up in protective gear, helmets, headlamps, and gumboots. They left their phones in the van since there was no reception inside the caves. 30 minutes later, they entered Organ Cave. Meanwhile, outside, the rain began to pour heavily. The sky darkened and rainwater streamed down the roads. Petera, Karnin's father, noticed his backyard turning into a large puddle. Concerned, he checked the weather forecast. He saw warnings for heavy rain, flood risks, and storms. The forecast was wrong. Heavy rain wasn't coming in the afternoon. It was already here. Andre immediately called the school asking if the group was still in the caves, but the school's response was unclear, failing to reassure him. 40 minutes later, he called again, by which time the flooding outside had worsened. The school still didn't provide a definitive answer. He called a third time, and this time the school assured him there was nothing to worry about. But inside Organ Cave, the students were completely unaware of the situation outside. They followed a familiar path along the creek bed inside the cave. The water flowed gently over smooth rocks, clear as crystal. The cave walls were damp and glistening under their headlamps. The air smelled of earth, moisture, and ancient stone. After about 150 meters, the passage split into two. The group chose the upper passage, where the ceiling was higher and glowworms clung to the rocks. The faint blue-green light from the glowworms created a magical scene like an underground starry sky. Captivated by the beauty, the students lingered for about 20 minutes, their voices hushed in awe. But then something unexpected happened. The water, which had been knee-deep, began to rise. The teacher sensed something was wrong. The gentle trickle of water had turned into a roaring sound. He crouched down, feeling the water level much higher than before. Looking back, the entrance was no longer visible. The passage behind them was submerged. The teacher shouted for them to get out immediately. They rushed back to the main tunnel, but the water was now waist-deep. The flow was powerful, turning the cave into a deadly funnel. The teacher yelled for the students to hold on to each other. They linked arms, struggling against the current, but the water was too strong, and some students started to lose their footing. Then one fell. Karnin Petera was in the most dangerous spot, right in the path of the strongest current. Do you wonder why Karnin ended up in such a perilous position? Let me explain from a scientific perspective. Floodwater in caves behaves differently from surface water. When heavy rain falls, water rushes through crevices and pours into the cave at terrifying speeds. The pressure and cave topography create unexpected whirlpools and deep holes. At Karnin's location, the water had carved a deep hole in the cave floor, turning it into a deadly vortex. The current yanked Karnin off balance. Before he could react, he fell into the hole, the water swallowing him up to his chest. His classmates watched in horror, frozen for a moment. Then one student lunged forward trying to save Karnin. He grabbed Karnin, pulling with all his might. But the current was relentless. Karnin was pulled deeper into the crevice, his body twisting in the water. The student struggled to hold on, but the force was too great. Karnin's protective gear meant to keep him safe now acted like an anchor, dragging him down. Did you know why clothing can become an enemy in such situations? Underwater-soaked clothes add drag, making it much harder to swim or escape. The student pulled with all his strength, but eventually Karnin was torn away. His classmates saw his wide, panicked eyes before the water dragged him under completely. Outside at 10:35 a.m., an emergency call was made. Rescue teams rushed to Abbey Caves, sirens blaring through the heavy rain. 16 surviving students, soaked and shivering, stood near the cave entrance. But one was missing: Karnin. Police arrived, followed by search and rescue teams. But the floodwaters inside the cave were still too high. They couldn't do anything immediately. For hours they could only wait. By 7 p.m., the floodwaters began to recede. Rescuers moved in using underwater cameras to search. After hours, they found Karnin's body pinned against a rock formation. His leg was trapped between boulders, unable to escape. Outside, his family had waited all day. Now their worst fear was confirmed. Karnin had died. The tragedy shocked New Zealand. Investigations revealed that the school had failed to properly assess the risks. Despite multiple warnings, they allowed the trip to proceed. In May 2024, WorkSafe New Zealand charged the school's board. They were accused of exposing students to serious harm. In July 2024, the court ordered the school to pay over $500,000 in reparations. This sum acknowledged the devastating impact on Karnin's family and classmates. But can money ever compensate for such a loss? The Abbey Caves incident is a painful reminder of nature's power. Do you think we sometimes take the dangers around us too lightly? Always be cautious, for one wrong decision can change everything. Thank you for watching Loud History today. If you want to learn more about emotional historical events, subscribe now. Leave a comment if you have ideas for the next video. See you in the next historical story.